Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn. You already knew that. And this series is called I Want to Be a Better Coach. And it's all the things that I have kind of learned and experienced as a transformational life coach, and also as a spiritual coach and a person that's worked in recovery with the 12-step programs, all kinds of elements of my practice and training, and actually including being a marriage and family therapist before all of that, and coming here to you today with all of the experience that supports and empowers me to be a more effective coach with my clients. So I want to share some of those things with you. If you have particular questions that show up and that you're challenged by as a coach, there's a form below that you can fill out and fill in so that you can ask me a question or just ask it in the comments below. All right, let me get started. So a couple of years ago, I created a video series called Inward Bound Boot Camp for Self-Transformation. And the intention, and the link is below to that, the intention of that boot camp was to support and empower you as an individual and or coach to look at what are the elements, what are the steps that are part of the process of a transformational experience. Now, a lot of people, as I say, they want the experience. Let me see. Here it is. Excuse me. They want the experience of transformation. They want their life to transform, but they don't want to change. So this series that I did, I think there's 21 videos or something like that, not very long, help you and support you to look at what are the elements of being you in this process of transformation. And I use the analogy of the caterpillar. And the caterpillar is being a caterpillar and it's doing what it knows how to do. And at some point, its intuitive nature is to go into a chrysalis. And in that chrysalis process, there's a metamorphosis. In a sense, that caterpillar disintegrates. The elements of caterpillarness disintegrates. And in that process, there's no caterpillarness left. Then out of that becomes the essence of what creates the butterfly. And then over time, the butterfly is creating itself inside the chrysalis, and then it uses its wings and its strength and courage and whatever it is to break through the chrysalis and free itself and fly. So that process isn't any different in a sense than what we go through in a transformational process. But quite often, as transformational coaches or anybody who's in the coaching field and they want to break through and have their clients break through, they kind of this part where there's this chrysalis element, this metamorphosis process. We want to skip over that, and it's both as the client they want to skip over it, but also as the coach, because we're not trained to coach to the metamorphosis. We're not trained to coach to the isness of this process of the disintegration of, in a sense, the ego or persona or strategies that are meant to be in place to help survive, but aren't contributing to the unfolding of what's next. So generally speaking, when an individual, a client, or whoever comes to this place of going into this metamorphosis process, sometimes we think of it as like, oh, they need to go see a therapist, or, there's something wrong here, or it's something bigger than what I can handle. The truth is, it's just a normal process, but we're not taught how to sit with or be with that process for ourselves personally or as a coach. Now, I suspect that if you are 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, 50 something, that you've experienced processes and moments of a metamorphosis. In a sense, anytime where life created a situation or circumstance that, maybe it was a breakup in a relationship, maybe you got fired from a job, maybe you got pregnant and you got a baby, or you got married, or your house flooded. Any element where you have are leaving something behind that you weren't anticipating, you come into a place of this place of metamorphosis, in a sense. And this is where a lot of transformational processes occur. Now, sometimes in terms of cancer, people find that through that process of going through the worst of the worst of the worst and going through it consciously, that they evolve and they unfold in a way that they never knew existed. They experience themselves in the essence of the self, the truest sense of strength and courage and presence than they ever experienced, because they went through this process that they weren't anticipating. So it's really important that we, again, I want you to know that you've gone through this yourself, but we don't think about it this way. But you've gone through this yourself, most likely, if you've gone through any losses and or transitions that were huger than you anticipated, and it might have put you into a state of being very challenged emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. There's so much I want to say, and I'm trying to get it out in a way that makes sense. I have a podcast. So there's the Inward Bound Bootcamp for Self-Transformation, which I talk about this this process and this metamorphosis stage that we go through. And I've also did a podcast called Spiritual Immersion, Taking the Plunge. And in this process of realizing this metamorphosis stage of our existence, if you will, and it may happen 3 or 4 or 5 times in your lifetime or your client's lifetime, in realizing this as a spiritual immersion or an immersion or emergence of you in your fullest expression, in your divine sense of self, then we can see how important it is to hold a bigger picture of who we are, not just as a physical being or a mental being or an emotional being, but an energetic, vibrational, even spiritual or divine expression of energy. That's a lot to hold. And my work in the world is being all of this for my client. And this is what I want to train other people to do. That's why I'm doing these videos, is so that you can go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I want to be able to hold that greater capacity for clients to see and know themselves, not as sick or crazy or insane, or that there's something wrong, but that this is a natural unfolding that's necessary and required for us to be in our fulfillment of our human spirit. So that's what we're talking about today. The other couple of weeks ago, in my group coaching, one of the individuals, one of the values of this group coach training, in a sense, is people are sharing themselves in their personal experiences as well as their professional elements. And one of the individuals was, I'll call her Martina. Martina was sharing with us what she's in right now as she's processing going through a transition from being married to separated. And for some people, this is not a big deal, but in this case, for Martina, it's a very big deal. And so at times, we put these labels on, she's depressed or she's grief-stricken or she's just, but none of those words matter when you're in it. And again, if she's in this metamorphosis process, she's going from who she was as a caterpillar element in the persona of a wife, as a person in relationship to this other person, and deconstructing that. And she's doing it at such a level that it's truly a metamorphosis process. And so one of the individuals who's a coach was listening from, hey, you can do this differently, and you can look at it differently, and you can see the positive, and you can see that. And what showed up in this conversation was you could see how that kind of coaching was not landing. And in fact, Martina wasn't feeling heard or listened to or seen. And in fact, she's like, oh God, because the truth of where Martina is she can't do it differently. She is in it. She is in, sometimes we call it the dark night of the soul, or spiritual emergence, or spiritual immersion, what I call, when you're in this chrysalis stage, in this metamorphosis, and there's nowhere to go and there's no way out. And I've spoken about this in terms of the birth matrix process that Stan Groff talks about. When you're in the state of as a fetus and a baby or an infant or whatever that is inside, and going through a labor process to birth itself, there's a place where there's nothing to do and nowhere to go, but it is not fun and it is not exciting and it is not, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do except be with what is. And that isness can be so huge and on so many levels. And it's like Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole and experiencing what she's experiencing. And this is not bad. This is not wrong. This is not terrible. This is just part of us evolving ourselves and being able to see who we are on all levels and dimensions. It doesn't have to be crazy cosmic metaphysical stuff. It's just like, wow, I am in this and there's nowhere to go. I can't get out. And so when in this group, and we're talking about, here's a way, this individual, call her, I get mixed up with names, but Carolyn, is Carolyn saying, hey, you could do this and you could do that. And I go, and on the other hand, she can't right now. She can't. And so how do we coach to that when my client or Martina, she can't move forward? It's like a baby trying to move through the birth canal when the cervix isn't open. And in a sense, it's a big fat bee with. It's like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. It sucks. It feels like I'm dying. It feels like I'm not me. I don't have the capacities I thought I had to make a difference, because we can't, if the cervix isn't open, then we can't move forward. And we're not supposed to move forward. We're, push through. And that's what a lot of coaching does, in a sense, is let's push through this. You can push through this. And at times there's times to push through, but there's times sometimes where in this metamorphosis, again, this caterpillar creating a chrysalis and being here in this, deconstructing and being in this mush, and then the process of reconstructing, that takes the time it takes. So as a coach, my job in this case, the coaching is to coach to, here's what is, here's the isness of it. It's like on the outside, the doula or midwife coaching a mom through labor. There's no, I mean, of course, there are a lot of medical and procedural things we can do to quicken the process. But if we allow nature to take its course, as a midwife or a doula, I'm present to breathing and feeling the anguish or feeling the despair, the hopelessness, feeling this is never going to end, feeling like this pain is never going to go away, this baby's never going to come into the world, all of that. Oh my God, this is hopeless. I feel powerless to make this happen. The doula is in that process of going, yeah, that's what it feels like. And just acknowledging and validating the experience that the person is having. It's like we're doing on the inside and the outside. So on the outside, the doula is saying, yeah, it makes sense that you want to hurry this up. And this is really difficult and painful and uncomfortable, and you want to make it go away. And here's the isness of it. And on the inside, we've got this fetus child that is going through the same thing. That's excruciating. Some of it is excruciating, and it feels like they're dying. And in a sense, there is a death. There's a death of what was. And that experience, what's it like when there's no opening? So this is what we're doing again with people who we're supporting them in transformation, and they have this idea and this dream that they want to fulfill, and we're here to support that. And oftentimes it means this dismantling of a way of being that just doesn't work anymore. One of my clients, I hadn't talked to her for a few months, and I called her, and she said, yeah, I dismantled my marriage and I dismantled my business. Like I had to let it go. And so she's in a process, and most of it is she's doing really well, because it's taken her so long to move through this metamorphosis to where in this butterfly phase, she's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I can let that go. So my job as a coach, your job as a coach in these times when it's a metamorphosis process and they're in there, is listening for this is as good as it gets right now. And not the client might be feeling hopeless or helpless, because that's part of the experience of being in the isness of that metamorphosis. is I don't know who I am. I don't know. I was this, but I'm not this anymore. But I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm becoming. And if we're true to ourselves as coaches, we go, yeah, I know what that's like when I don't know who I'm becoming or what I'm becoming. And most of us as coaches, we want to become a coach, but we don't even know what that means because it's always an unfolding the potentiality of being that coach, a different coach, the coach that we're growing into is constant. We're constantly changing. So when an individual is in, when your clients or when you are in this metamorphosis place and there's nothing to do and nowhere to go, what we're doing is validating and acknowledging, or acknowledging and validating the individual's, the client's perspective, their experience, their matter of factness, the truth of that. Um, we're just validating. Yep, that's what it's like. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, it feels crazy. Yep, it feels insane. Yep, it feels like there's no way out. Yep. And we're validating that place as opposed to going, oh, there's something wrong. There's something crazy. We better get help. It's a mental health problem. Well, 99% of the time, 90% of the time, it's not going to be 90% of the time, it's not going to be a mental health problem. This is a natural folding. And it's usually the mental health problems occur because we don't allow and don't witness the unfolding of what's natural for us. And we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're part of this. This spiritual being is birthing itself through this human experience. So being, for me, a transformational coach, that means that we're engaging in all of that, the wholeness of the spiritual self, spirit self with the human self. And it's a lot to hold. And so we want to fix it, much like Caroline, I think that's what I said, who said, hey, you could do this and you could do that. And that's what we want to do as coaches, is give people problem solving to help fix it. And it's like what a lot of us aren't willing to do is sit in the discomfort of being in this metamorphosis. And this is where the transformation takes place. This is where we start to manifest into something else. This is where alchemy takes place. But if we fight it and resist it as a coach and say, no, you should be different, and I don't know how to be with this, and it's really scary for me, and if you would only have this under control, then I wouldn't feel out of control. That's where we need to get support as coaches and or supervision or coach for ourselves, professional coaching, so we can sit with this. But if our discomfort gets in the way of our client's process, then we're not doing them any good. We're slowing them down. And Carolina was saying, hey, you could do this and this and this. And you could see in Mariana's experience, it wasn't working. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, I could do that. It was like, I can't do that. It's a hell no. So we're here to, as transformational life coaches, for me, to support and empower people to be in the isness of what is. You might say, well, how is that supposed to get them to their goal? It's like, this is required. Without this, the caterpillar cannot become a butterfly. Without this metamorphosis, without this chrysalis experience, the caterpillar can't be a butterfly. So if we as life coaches can support and empower people through this process while they're in this process without making it wrong, without making it crazy, without making it a problem, we're doing them so much service just to witness and acknowledge and appreciate. Wow. Just like a person going through labor, it's like, wow, you're doing so good to birth this, or to just be in the nothingness that's occurring right now. Nothing's happening. And sometimes we know that in the birthing process, sometimes nothing's happening, or it appears as if nothing's happening. And so being patient and present and allowing what happens to unfold. But if we push and resist and say, well, you got to do it differently and you're not doing it right, that just slows things down and gets in the way. So just something to think about. Last time I talked about when there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. And again, this is what I'm talking about, is this place of, it's really kind of an interesting place as a coach to not coach to the results. For me, the result that I'm looking for here is that my client be comfortable with themselves in this place where there's nothing to do and there's nowhere to go. There's, in a sense, that part of us that wants to control and make things right and make things the right way. That part within us we have to surrender that, because in any kind of birthing process, but the metamorphosis, it doesn't do us any good. It's like, well, if I only eat better, or if I go out and exercise, or if I do this, or I do this and I do this, those things absolutely help support the process, but it doesn't necessarily move it along. So quite often people go, well, what do I do? What do I do when there's nothing to do? So we can say, be in nature, drink lots of water, rest. These are things that, that really support us and our essential nature. But it doesn't going to fix it. It's not going to make it go faster, but it's not going to create resistance either. And that's what we're wanting, is not to create resistance and not create a situation. I want my client to feel like I'm seen, I'm heard, somebody gets me, somebody gets what this process is all about. And it doesn't make it wrong or bad or sick or crazy. And that's what every single one of us wants. We want to be seen, heard, and gotten, even in the worst, what feels like the worst of our circumstances. And for someone to go, I totally get that you feel this way, totally makes sense. You go, oh, thank God somebody gets it. And that's what we need more than anything, is that support and that level of presence. And that level of presence means I'm not trying to fix you or heal you. I'm just here with you as you're going through this. In a sense, that they call it now a spiritual doula, if you will, spiritual doula, helping to support and empower the birthing of your more spiritual, essential self. It's funny, as I'm sitting here talking with you, there's a thought that I have that I want to say, and I don't remember. It comes up and then it goes away, and I can't grab it. So it's kind of funny. I'm trying to do two things at the same time: talk with you, and this thought that comes up that I think is really important, but I can't remember what it is. So we'll just move on and see what happens here. So gentle presence. I was talking to one of my clients I've got a number of clients, because at some point your clients are going to get to this place of metamorphosis where here I want to say, it's this place of, I don't know how to do me. And if I ever write another book, this will be what it's about, because every single person that comes through this process, this transformative process, meets themselves and says, I don't know how to do me outside of my right, wrong, righteousness, my controlling, my my level, my need to try to control everything. And every single one of us has that need to try to control things. It's called our survival mechanisms. It's our persona. It's our personality. Our personality is not who we are. It's what we do so that we feel safe. It's what we do as a strategy. And quite often, those things becomes a habit or a pattern or an addiction, addictive patterning. And we don't know who we are without that. We just think it's us. But in these metamorphosis processes, when everything starts to disintegrate and dissolve, we go, I don't know how to do me without that. I don't know how to do me without performing. I don't know how to do me without my intellectual blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to do me without my emotional stuff. I don't know how to do me without being a victim. And this is where so many of us will stop our forward momentum and retreat into our survival strategies where we feel safe. And that's okay, because I've talked about before, when people aren't ready, they're not ready. And I know those places when I'm not ready. And so we honor and respect that process of I'm not ready. Good to know. Good to know. I know a lot of people with substance abuse issues, especially people with eating challenges, where they go, I'm overeating right now. And I go, yep, I get it. And they need to do that to support themselves on whatever level they need to do that. So this place where I don't know how to do me is where we're starting to open up the aperture of, I don't know how to do a butterfly. I don't know how to be me. I don't know. What are you talking about this thing? I don't know how to fly. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. It's like, nope, in a sense you don't. But there's something else going on here. But we get caught in, I don't know how to do me there. And so we retreat back into our survival mechanisms. And this is where in any coaching relationship, we have goals that our client has goals or desires and results, but they can't get there because at some point they're going to go, I don't know how to do me. Being great, being a millionaire, being financially or an entrepreneur or whatever that is I don't know how to do me as a mom or as somebody in love with and in a relationship that's healthy. I don't know how to do me. So we kind of again retreat into old patterns and kind of slow things down. It's natural, it's normal, that's not bad. But it's good to know it's like, oh, that's where I don't know how to do me, or my client is in, I don't know how to do me. I had a wonderful session with a woman today. I'm going to call her Linda because that's easy. And Linda is 62 and she's been in a big transition. She went from getting retired about 2 years ago. Last year, she uh, left her marriage and is now in her own apartment. Very high functioning professional person, now retired. And her way of being in the world is to be a people pleaser and help, always look for how can I be helpful. Well, what's showing up in her life right now is um, what do I do when there's nobody there to help? Like, I don't know who I am if I'm not helping. I don't know who I am without this process. And so there's this, for many people, there's a declaration like, I don't know who I am. And it's like, okay, great. And for me, so I'm going to just work with this a little bit. For me, with Linda, she goes, I don't know who I am. If I'm not helping people, then I don't know who I am. I'm repeating myself, but that emphasis, because I know that place for myself. And so one of the things that's been really helpful for me is Marie Kondo's work with What Sparks Joy. So, here's Linda, and she's like, oh, I don't know how to do me, and it's going to take forever, and oh my God, this is awful, and I go, okay, wait. I go, look around your apartment because she's only been there like 3 months. I go, look around your apartment and see what sparks joy. What sparks joy for you? And she said, oh, that's easy. And then she said, this teapot. And I go, show me that teapot. And this teapot was so awesome. It was so colorful and vibrant and whimsical. And she picked it up and she showed it to me and she kind of hugged it to herself. And you could just see the vibrancy of the teapot was, in essence, Linda. It's like Linda was in that moment, Linda. And I go, awesome. And we talked about that. And then there were other vibrant things in her house. And then we talked about there was a lot of vibrancy in her house and things that it sparked joy for her. And in that moment, those other things where I don't know how to do me, I don't know who I am, kind of dissipated. And she could allow herself just to be with that experience of joy sparked by many of the elements of her house that even included some of the memories that came in and induced by these objects. So in that moment, what I did was say, what sparks joy now? And because joy is an element, an aspect of us that is always, we are joy because we are source in form, we are energy in source, we are spirit in source and form. That joy is, that love is, that light is, that is. And so by saying, what sparks joy? She's like immediately into herself because that's who she is. She's the vibrant person. But when we talked about it, she goes, I'm afraid to be like that person that's vibrant. And I helped her distinguish that by saying, when you look at that person and say, I don't want to be like her, is it because she's trying to get something by being vibrant, or is she just vibrant? And she said, no, she's trying to get something. And I go, right. She's trying to get something. You don't want to be that. You want to be just this natural state of who you are. And she started to get it. So that's in a sense by like saying, okay, so what is it that sparks joy? And people might go, oh, I love the sense of freedom. And okay, great, awesome. What's that like? Where have you experienced that before? And people will tell you, I experienced that when I was in my first plane ride and leaving the ground. That sense of exhilaration and acceleration was just, I want more of that. Like, awesome. That's a moment of sparking joy. That's a moment of that knowing of our essential self that sparks joy. So while Linda is, in a sense, in this metamorphosis process because she doesn't know who she is, but she can begin to point to elements that reflect that essence of her. Again, it doesn't change this because this process, just like any birthing process, takes the time it takes. But we can bring in elements that can support and empower that she does know these aspects of herself that she knows. This is who I am. I'm vibrant. I'm exuberant. I'm helper. I'm kind. And she can start to own those things. And that's our job. And if she owns that, then she can build because that's true. It's not a made up thing. It's just who she is. So we're not looking for the persona or the structures or what can you do to help you through. Not any of that. This is something that's a natural unfolding, a natural element of the caterpillar mushing, but becoming the elements of the essential nature of what's next. That's our job as a coach is to hold that state of presence so that our clients can be in that. Now, you might say, well, how do you do that? And I go, I don't know. You just show up and you go, wow, I can make this wrong, or I can try to be a cheerleader and stuff. And it's like, nope, I know it doesn't work. And you can try what you try because that's what we need to do. Direct experience to say, I'm going to try this. And you can find your client's going to give you a response or feedback. And you go, yeah, that didn't really work. But when I do this, wow, that changed. So your willingness to be courageous in this quality of presence that you're bringing for your client, that's all there is. I never know because every single client is different and unique. So my willingness to be present and show up and listen and hold that space and basically keep saying, I totally get it. Because I've been in that spiritual immersion process. I've been in those rebirthing moments in reality in my existence many times. Many times I've broken up with relationships or, issues with my children or whatever that is that broke my heart. It broke me. And I had to rebirth myself. It's like these are places where I know that personally. And so to support someone through that is, it takes like, I know what that's like. So I don't make anything wrong. If the person is having issues that feel like it's bigger than what you can handle, absolutely refer. If you're not going to get supervision for yourself to say, how can I handle this better? Or what's required here for me? You may need to refer this person to a therapist or you might need to refer them to someone who you feel has more qualities or qualifications to support them. And that's really important part of what does this person need someone other than me? And that's a great gift that you can give them if that's the truth. Like, look, I really love working with you, and I think that you need some support from someone who has more experience with this process. So I'm going to refer you to these people who I think would be great for you. That's a gift that you're giving your clients. And it's a gift to you because you can let go of, I got to know how to do this. It's part of the metamorphosis process for you as a coach is to go, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to know how to do this. I don't want to coach to this level. I don't want to coach this part of this. It's good to know because you're taking care of yourself that way. And when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of your clients, you're taking care of everybody when you know and honor the truth in yourself. That's what we want. That's what I want for you. And that's what I want for you to want for your client. So I think that's pretty much it for today. If you find value, please like this video, and please share it if you know other people that could find benefit from this. If you have comments, if you disagree or agree with me, or have ideas or questions that take this to a different level, please offer it because it helps the community to hear what you have to say, your experience of this. I think that's it for now. Again, Inward Bound Bootcamp for Self-Transformation, the link below, and also the Spiritual Immersion podcasts are below. And we'll just leave it at that for now. All right. Big hugs and blessings. Bye for now.